Hi and welcome to today's programming tool. Today I'm very excited to introduce you to a new skill. This is a must-have skill for any programmer, and this skill is the skill of controlling the versions of your programs. In other words, version control. So version control is a practice that allows you to track changes in your code and manage those changes. So let me explain what I'm talking about with an example. This is the state of our code at the moment, but let's suppose that we have an issue with the edit case. We realize that about 5 days ago we made a change which caused the issue we have now. So what we want to do is we want to go back to the state of the code as it was 5 days ago. You cannot do that with undo because you have saved the code already, you have closed PyCharm, you have reopened it again. So undoing the changes is not an option. All you're left with is your memory. You'll try to remember what you did change back then and then try to rewrite the code as it was. And that's not the best solution. That's why we have version control systems. So we have version control and version control systems. Version control systems are software which we will install on our computer. You will install it on your computer as well. And that system allows you to control the versions of your programs, of your Python programs. Practically, in this case, if we had used a version control system with our project here, we would be able to easily go back and see the code as it was 5 days ago, and then we can reuse that version of the code or just pull up certain changes from that code. We can compare that code with our code as so we have control over the versions of our programs. So as I mentioned, to control the version of your program, you need to use a version control system, which is a software you install. So now I'll mention the main version control systems which can be used, and we'll have to pick one of them. The first one is Git. And Git is also the most popular version control system, and that's the one we will use. But just for knowledge, I'll also mention the other systems as well. We have Apache Subversion, Bazaar, and Mercurial, to mention just a few of them. Of course, there are slight changes between those, but the most popular one and the best one is also Git. So we'll be using Git, and I will take you through using it in the next day, so tomorrow, in the programming tool of tomorrow. Today I just want to make you familiar, to make you understand what version control is. So tomorrow we will install Git and we will connect it with our project so that we can keep track of our changes, so we can control the version. But before we go to tomorrow's video, I want to show you a glimpse of version control. So this is one of my personal projects. This is a project, a Python-based project, which constructs a web app, and it's based in the Django framework. So this is the Python code base, and if you go to this button here, of course you don't have this because you have not enabled Git yet, but I have enabled Git in this project. So if I go to that button, I'll have access to all the changes I've made across different days. So for example, if I want to see how my code was at this change here when I added an exercise and I recorded that change in here, so I can just right click here and then I can compare that file with a local file. So then I'll see here the file as it was back then, and then here on the right I have the current view of the file, how the file is now and how the file was back then when I made that change. So changes are highlighted as you can see here, and so on. So I have recorded different changes in here. I can click any of them, and here on the right I can see the files that were changed that day, and so on. So that's how Git works in a nutshell. I'll take you through how to make these changes, how to record the changes, how to see the changes, so don't worry about that. This was just to show you Git in a nutshell. Now, this was Git, so the software we installed to help us see these changes in our program. But there's also GitHub. Maybe you have heard of it. GitHub is a software hosting platform. So all these folders that you see here and all the files inside them, for example views.py inside blog, this file is also in here in my project here, Python how. So that is the file. So all these files are uploaded to GitHub. So why would you want to upload your program files to GitHub? Well, that's for several reasons. First, you can use GitHub as a backup system, so it's cloud-based. If you lose access to your files, to your hard drive, you lose your computer, etc., then you have the files on GitHub. And I'll show you how to synchronize your files so they are always up to date with the GitHub platform. So backups is one reason. Other reasons are you may want to share your code with other people. So you may want to create a portfolio for potential employers to see your code or clients. And GitHub can also be used when you want someone to collaborate with your project. So both you and your collaborator can make changes on your own computers, and you can upload the changes to GitHub, and everything there is tracked. So everything is synchronized with the changes you have on Git. So Git and GitHub are synchronized with each other. Git is local and GitHub is cloud-based to back up your code and to be able to share your code with other people. Another role of GitHub is that, for example, in my case, it allows me to upload the code to the web server. So that's a product of that code that you see here. So this is a web app I've built in Python, and this web app has to be run in some remote servers. So that means I have to upload all this code to that remote server, and GitHub serves as an intermediary. So I upload my code to GitHub, and then I get the code from GitHub to the server. So that was a lecture on version control systems, Git and GitHub. So as a summary, version control is the practice of recording the changes you do on your programs, and the way to record your changes is to install a software, which I'll cover later. So the software itself is the version control system. And then you have extras, which is this cloud-based software hosting solution, so such as GitHub. where you can upload your code to have a backup, and it also allows you to share your code with others. And that's about this video. Tomorrow I'll take you through installing and using Git step by step so you can use it on your computer. So I'll see you tomorrow. See you.